I think it's been a while since I've actually done a Dark Sean for, let's see, last time I did was probably about 4 weeks ago, and that is around like 1 month. Actually, I think the number's bigger than that, about like 5 to 6 weeks. Regardless, I'm gonna restart the whole series again, and right now we're starting with this. I'm gonna start off with another biography, and this time I'm going ahead with John Steinbeck because I'm reading his book, Grapes of Wrath, and I will be reading his other books later on too, so this will be juicy. Let's start off simply. John Steinbeck was born John Ernest Steinbeck II on February 27th of 1902 in the beautiful county town of this place. You might recognize it for Californians. This is Salinas, California, which is obviously in the United States of America. From here, he graduated from Salinas High School in the class of 1919 and enrolled at the legendary Stanford University, where he studied English literature. But in the middle of the courses, more specifically in 1925, he obviously dropped out of college in 1925. Well, simply enough, his life actually becomes easier from there. Afterwards, after dropping out of college, he moved all the way to the other side of America to a special city that we now know today as New York City. And in New York City, he did a bunch of odd jobs. Also, the Wikipedia page didn't specify on what those odd jobs are. And then he tried to write a few good books. After he, failing to get his books published, he moved back to California in 1928, where he worked as a little tour guide as well as a caretaker in the nearby Lake Tahoe. It should also be noted that this is where he met his first wife, Carol Henning, and they were soon married on January of 1930 in Los Angeles. From there, he wrote a bunch of books. His first book ever published was Cup of Gold, and it was a commercial failure. As you can see, the plot is self-explanatory. After writing some other, commercially inviable commercial failures, such as The Pastures of Heaven in 1932 and The Red Pony, published 1933, he finally published this book, Tortilla Flat. And as you know, this is the book that got, instant sales so high that he probably knew that, hey, it was gonna happen. I just didn't think it would be this book. This is what put him on the charts, and he was able to go on the top 100 books that were sold pretty quickly. Afterwards, he wrote more books that were now related to the Dust Bowl. A little history, nerds, for all those nerds out there. The Dust Bowl is a little incident that happened during the Great Depression. It's basically one of the causes for the farmers to become poor. So during World War I, obviously Britain, France, and other European countries had terrible farms because they're getting bombed all the time. So the Allies all have to rely on the freedom-loving country, America. And so all the farms were turned into wheat farms, and that is a very, very unsustainable farming practice because grass has roots that hold all the soil in place, but now that those roots, since the grass is gone, all the roots are gone, and now you replace that with some, rootless crops, such as wheat. Now the soil is going to erode, and, as you can see, add that to spontaneous heavy rains and then sudden droughts. The ground started to, crack, which means dust, and add some wind to that. Boom, you got yourself a dust storm. Which obviously is not good for humans. Some people wore goggles and wet cloth on their faces just to be able to breathe. Eventually all the dust, even all the cloths that was put under the doors, the dust would always infiltrate them, and it took a day to settle. And it took weeks to clear all the dust and even before they could clear all the dust away, the next dust storm came. You can blame the Hoover administration for the lack of things, the lack of response, and that frankly Roosevelt was the savior of all of us from the Great Depression with his New Deal plan, which could have failed, but somehow it didn't. But regardless, that's what the Dust Bowl is. Anyways, Steinbeck started writing fiction based on that. And eventually he wrote his bestseller of all time, The Grapes of Wrath, which for some reason he called it a run-of-the-mill book. And as you can see, there are 40 million plus copies sold worldwide. And a mint first edition would sell for it in the billions. Okay, probably not the billions, but probably most likely the millions. Later on, he wrote more books, such as East of Eden. Eventually, he won the 1940 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, due to his book The Grapes of Wrath, and for all of his works, an outstanding mark on American literature. He was awarded the 1962 Nobel Prize for Literature. In December 20th of 1968, while he was in New York City, and he basically had a little heart attack, which was probably due all to the smoking he did. And due to that, he died. Well, in the city that started his writing career, and that's also ended it. What an epic conclusion to this story. His legacy on American literature is profound, and there is no other author, arguably Hemingway or John Stuart Mill, except for those authors, there is arguably no other author in American literature that has impacted America so much. Why else would people leave American flags and roses towards this Steinbeck guy? So, that is the life and story of John Steinbeck. Full name, John Steinbeck II. So I hope to see you guys soon. I'll see you guys in my summaries of The Grapes of Wrath. And until then, Shannon out. Peace. Bye-bye.